Hey friend, I'm Erin. Welcome to my channel. If we have not yet met, I am a military spouse and teacher turned photographer, and I love helping fellow Milspouse photographers build businesses that thrive despite frequent moves. I am back today with another interview in our series highlighting fellow Milspouse photographers in the Photographers Changing Stations community. And I am joined today by Randi Schuette. Randi, welcome. I am so glad to have you here.
Hi, Erin. I know. I feel like we've talked so much in other calls, but never one-on-one.
Yes, it feels like we should be good friends by now, so it's nice to actually be sitting down and doing this.
Yeah.
So awesome. We'll get into that a little bit later about how we know each other, but I would love to start with just your traditional milspouse introduction. If we just bumped into each other at a spouse's event and you're like, "Hey, this is who I am and where I'm from. We got your military connection, all that good stuff."
Yeah. So I'm Randi Schuette. My husband is in the Army. He just hit 10 years. So we've been married 7 of those years. I was born in South Carolina. My family's in Virginia now, and Zach and I met in school in Virginia. And since we got married, yeah, it's been moving from there.
Yes. What part of Virginia?
Southwestern,
Okay.
Roanoke is like the closest bigger city. And then further west, you've got like Bristol, Virginia, and Tennessee.
Okay. Gotcha. Having
It's
just been
very small.
stationed in Northern Virginia, I was like, "Oh, have we been in the same places?" But no, different part of the
No.
state. Awesome. So where have you guys been since you started moving around?
Um, After we got married, he was already in Alaska at Fort Wainwright. So after we got married, I moved up there. That was my first, and that was very cold. Most of my time there
I
was in
bet.
the winter. I think the lowest it was negative 46 while we were
Okay,
there.
that's cold.
Then from there, we went to Fort Sill in Oklahoma just for school. So that was a temporary move like here. And then we went further south to Fort Hood in Texas. And then from there, actually back to Fort Sill in
Okay.
Oklahoma. And that was a 2-year stint. So we were there a little bit longer. And now he's in school at the Naval Postgraduate School. So we're in Monterey, California right now. So
Oh my
another
gosh.
temporary, but yeah, it's been
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. How do you like California? I feel like that would be a huge change from Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Texas, and even
And I'm
Alaska.
from the South too, so it definitely like a culture shock just in general of
Yeah.
California. It's insanely beautiful. It's expensive, but thankfully us military families, we have BAH to help out with that. But I
Sure.
mean, it's still expensive, don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's incredibly beautiful. I have enjoyed the weather, the scenery, being able to be outside all of the time with the kids. And
Yeah.
yeah, we have enjoyed our time here, and the family time of a school setting has been huge for us.
Sure. How much longer do you guys have?
Another year, I think we'll be
Okay.
moving next spring, maybe early summer. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
So you and me are on the same timeline.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I know that you are a photographer of many talents. You've done families, weddings, seniors, real estate, drone photography. I would love to hear kind of how your business has evolved from move to move and what things have looked like for you at different assignments.
Yeah, I think that goes to show, I think I would do photography, even if I didn't have a business. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
why I have that portfolio. I'd say I really started doing photography when I was in college. I would do senior portraits for friends, and I went to college with my older brother and sister too. So it more so started when their friends were graduating. I was doing
Gotcha.
some senior portraits, and then anyway, after graduation, I kind of jumped into weddings when people I knew were getting married. And
Sure.
for a long time, that was probably the bulk of my portfolio. And then, a couple of years later, I started doing family portraits as they were growing their families. And it has been nice to kind of have all of that in my tool belt moving around, because
Yeah.
it has changed base to base kind of what my work has consisted of. I would say when we were in Fort Sill in Oklahoma was when I jumped into real estate photography, and that was a very foreign thing to me. I had never done
Yeah.
it. It's different equipment. You shoot on a wide angle lens. The editing is very different, and the shooting settings are very different. You shoot at f8 most of the time, where
What?
portrait work is like
Yeah.
you're pushing it at like 4.5. So
Yeah. Oh my
it,
goodness.
it's been a learning curve, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably bad business advice. Like if I had a business coach, they'd probably tell me to stop that and pick one that I like. But I don't
It's
know.
funny that you say that because that was one of my thoughts. There's so much advice in our industry that's niche down, get to know be known for one thing, maybe two
Yeah.
things. And I wonder if you've wrestled with that, or if you're just like, no, I love it all and I'm willing to shoot it all, so I'm going to show it all.
I think I wrestled with that a lot when I was shooting weddings.
Okay.
But then, because I think my busiest season was right when I had my firstborn. And once you kind of realize, oh, if your majority of your business is weddings, you're gone a lot of weekends. And some of mine were
Yeah.
travel weddings too.
Okay.
The first wedding season after I had my son, I shot 2 national park weddings. So I was, traveling
That's
a lot
fun.
for that. And yeah, it's insanely fun. And it definitely, it's not impossible with kids. I'm not saying that, but I think kind of where your priorities are of like
Sure.
what you want to do with your family time. And
Yeah.
there was one year in particular for me, I think, as an individual and a business owner, kind of aligned my priorities. Right after I had my son, he was about 3 or 4 months old, and then Zach was leaving for deployment, and then that's when my dad passed away too. And so that was a very, losing a parent at any point in life is not fun, but it really did align some goals for
Yeah.
me, losing a parent as I was becoming a parent and like what's important for me. And
Sure.
so as a business owner, I think it depends on what you want, but I think that showed me I want this to work for me and my family, not really, it's great to bring in income and, who doesn't love
Right.
making lots of profit from their business. But
Yeah.
I think for me right now, because it could change in the future, but for right now, I think it's just working for my family, and I'm kind of doing different things depending on the move. Because for example, I haven't done real estate work. I've done a few side gigs in an Airbnb, but I haven't had a
Okay.
huge real estate portfolio here.
Gotcha. That was kind of my next question. It's like, what have you had any niches that were like crazy popular at one assignment and then you move to the next one and it's like crickets and so you pick up something else?
Yeah. And it's funny, I don't really have a reason why, but yeah, that has been true. When we were in
Okay.
Oklahoma, and I'm not big on advertising either. I never do like paid Facebook or Google ads. So I think if I maybe targeted a certain genre, it would
Sure.
pick up. But just what's coming naturally, real estate was my biggest. The second stint we were at Fort Sill in Oklahoma, real estate
Okay.
was my biggest thing there. And I still did some family shoots and seniors. But yeah, the most recurring was real estate. So,
Gotcha. And did you just kind of connect with a few realtors and they always sent you the
yeah,
homes that they needed shot?
yeah. So we bought a
Okay.
house when we moved to Oklahoma, and when we were looking at houses, I was like, I don't need a designated office, but having some sort of space. And
Yeah.
sort of like, oh, you do photography, and then he was like, show me your portfolio, and then he was like, you're doing my listing photos from now on. I'm like, okay, I'll figure out.
Great.
And then it was a great community there. They would pass my name along just word of mouth. And it really, with real estate, this is another difference between real estate and portrait work too, is you don't need a ton of clients. You need recurring work from the same
Sure.
clients. So you get 5 realtors that you love working for. And, if they're producing listings, I feel like that's a big difference with portrait work.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think of like, families want pictures hopefully at least once, maybe twice a year if I'm lucky, but
Yeah.
you got to cover a lot of families in order to make a good income on that. But you're exactly right. Like partner up with a few realtors and as long as they're
Yeah.
working hard, you could be working hard too.
Yeah. But yeah, you can learn a lot doing different
Yeah.
genres, and
That's awesome. Is that how you got into drone photography or did that
it
come
is.
elsewhere? Okay.
Yeah, because there's always Facebook groups. That's how I
Yeah.
found you, a Facebook group for
Yes,
military
I
self
love
photographers.
it.
But I'm in some real estate photography groups, and everyone is talking about if you add drone to your packages, you can double your income for a listing. And it is true if anyone else is interested in real estate work and
Yeah.
contemplating the drone license. It really, it's just another add-on item that, especially in Oklahoma, lots are bigger there. There's a lot of like ranch land and things like that. It was really beneficial for listings like that. But that is why I got my license. It's pretty affordable to do the test. You do
Okay.
have to go to like a physical testing center to
Okay.
get it done. And then after you pass the initial test, you just have to renew it every 2 years.
Okay. This might be a silly question, but I've never done this. Is it a written
Yeah,
test or like an actual flying test?
it's a written, like knowledge-based
Okay.
test. Yeah, that's the more intimidating part to me. And I know you're a fellow rule follower too. Like
Yes,
I was
you know
comfortable
me.
with like the actual flying. Like if you've played video games, flying a drone it's very similar to like using the joysticks on a
Okay.
remote controller.
Sure.
The flying wasn't intimidating. It was the knowledge base, because it's not even like, how do you go up in the drone? It's learning airspace regulations and a lot of the language of
Sure.
like airports and pilots and weather reporting. And yeah,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
that was exciting to
Well,
me.
the drone work that I've seen of like the coast of California, I'm like, oh my gosh, Randy, that's like it's so fun, so beautiful. It's kind of cool to see like you got into it because of real estate, but you've been able to like fly and shoot some really other cool places. What is that? I guess have you had that as part of like family packages or senior packages, anything like that, where people would want to add that on?
I haven't done it for any portrait work. I've
Okay,
mostly done landscape, and I'm not opposed to it. But one thing about this area is it is heavy on permits, and
gotcha.
to have to get even apply and get approved for the permit, you have to have business insurance, which I do have, but you have to have separate insurance types with the drone work specifically.
Okay,
So it's just another hoop to
another
jump
layer.
through. I don't know if I'll do that since we're only here for another year. But the places that I've been flying, it's, I don't want to get into the technical airspace terms, but yeah, there are beautiful areas that you can
Yeah.
fly here, but using it for portrait work is a little bit different.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I don't know, like, as a family, like, if I was hiring to someone to do my family photos, like, would I really want the drone? Maybe if there was some video
Yeah.
introduced as well. I don't know. It looks very
I,
cool, but,
I've
part
seen
of
some
the portrait
beautiful like
work is like,
wedding shots
yeah,
with the drone, but yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Oh, that's cool. And a fun skill to have that I feel like certainly sets you apart from other people. Like, if somebody does want that, like, I don't know if anyone in my area that does that. Obviously, I'm not out looking for it, but just in like the grand scheme of like baseline knowledge for a general photographer, I don't think that's included. So like
Yeah.
a cool way to set yourself apart.
And yeah, that's another difference. A lot of, real estate photographers that are, yes, very good at the drone work. If you work with a realtor and then they're like, oh, can you do some headshots for me? Like while we're at this house, it's another
Yeah.
tool to have in your belt.
Yes. You look very
They
well
don't,
rounded.
a lot of them don't have the portrait knowledge
Sure.
or equipment because the lenses are so different.
Yeah. I remember when we sold our house in Albuquerque, the photographer that came in and did the pictures, I was just fascinated, like following him around and watching how he was shooting because I had just launched my business about a year before then. So I knew enough and like had gotten comfortable with the lenses that I was shooting with. And I was like, man, this is so different. But
Yes, very.
that's cool. Well, speaking of headshots, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Portraits for Patriots, since that's how you and I originally connected, and you were the one who even told me about the organization to begin with. So I'm wondering if you want to share a little bit about what the organization does and what we're learning together in the academy.
Yeah, so I actually found Portraits for Patriots, ironically, when I was helping my husband set up his LinkedIn. And I had just seen them online, and I love their mission. So Portraits for Patriots is a nonprofit that provides free headshot services for service members and family members too. But a great example is if you're transitioning out of military service and you need a new headshot for LinkedIn, you can find someone in your area, and they'll give you a free headshot, and they
Yeah.
do a great job. So I was looking at their website, and I was like, oh, maybe one day I can learn headshot photography enough to be one of their photographers and volunteer for them. So I was looking at their website, and then that's how I found the spouse program, which is the training that Erin and I are going through together. We have a little cohort of military spouses learning how to shoot professional headshots, to start working with service members and family members. And it's been a great learning experience because I have learned so much in such a short time. Even real estate work, I have mostly learned from watching YouTube videos and free resources. Having the professional expertise from our cohort has been such a huge help with the learning curve.
Yes. I don't know about you. I was so intimidated by studio lighting to begin with. I'm like, nah, like I've got this natural light stuff down. Like, why do I want to dabble in
Yes.
that? And it's been really cool to learn. I don't know if you know what your experience has been like, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Exactly. I think it's just very intimidating when you don't, have much experience with it.
Yeah,
And I had very minimal, when I did weddings, I would use a speed light on camera. And, looking back, I could have used off camera flash and served reception areas
sure.
a lot better. But with real estate work, I started using a technique called flambient, which is like where you take a flash shot and an ambient shot and you kind of blend them together.
Interesting. Okay.
So I had very minimal. I was using a little Godox off camera for that. So with Portraits for Patriots, I now have a bigger Godox system. And then the little one is my kick light, not to get into all of
Yes,
that.
the technical stuff.
I had very minimal, but yeah, I have learned so much. And it's already like, later today, I'm going to post a cake smash session that I used with my big studio lights that I now know how to use.
Nice. Oh, I love that. And I think that's ultimately the goal of the Academy program is like
Yes.
to teach us how to do this so that we can, yes, serve the military community with it, but also run our own businesses and have
Set
this
us
as
up for
another skill
success.
set. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. What have you found to be like, I guess, the most meaningful part of your training with them so far?
I think hearing everyone else's stories, honestly, the community, though, our little cohort of
Yeah.
spouses, and just talking and hearing of our different experiences and like why this is so helpful for us too. And just knowing that we can help out other military families that, know exactly what we're each other's going through. So,
Yeah, totally. What would you say to someone who maybe has never heard of it? They're just now hearing about it now, or even if they have heard about it before, they kind of brush it off. They're like, I don't have time for that. What kind of encouragement would you give to someone who's like interested in the mission, but not sure they have the bandwidth to actually participate?
yeah, and I think that was my initial feelings too, especially us with kids and little ones. It's like, I don't know if I can commit that time. I
Yeah.
think, and what my husband reminds me too is like, you're volunteering, like any help is great help. Like, and the online education part, it's so thorough but efficient that I don't know, you can get through the material. And I think it's just up to you on practicing. How much time you have dedicated to practice is really the big, I think, hold up maybe, but I would apply and do it. I mean, we need more volunteers, and it's such a great way. Even if you can only help a little bit, it's still helping out.
Sure. Anybody who needs it will be grateful
Yeah,
for, even if, you can only do it a couple times a month or something. I'm interested to
exactly.
see what the workload will be like once we're officially certified and get started.
Yes.
I reached out in our local spouses group a couple weeks ago because my sweet husband was tired of me taking his headshot for practice. And so I had a few local spouses and one service member come over and just let me practice with them. But when I posted in the Facebook group, there was, so much traction when you're like, hey, I'm giving out free professional headshots,
Oh, wow.
that like I feel like I could have booked my calendar for days on that. And I probably don't
Wow.
have the bandwidth to do that. But once I am certified and can tell people like, hey, we have someone now at Right Pat that can do this, I'll be interested to see what the volume is like.
I have the same questions. I'm very interested, especially, another aspect of military life, especially if you have kids, is the, certainty of schedules. And
Yeah.
so we're right there with you. If
Yes.
anyone else is also hesitant, we're
We're
also
in
figuring
it.
it out.
Yes, I love that. Well, I want to switch gears one more time. The reason there was so much interest in doing this interview series is because, while yes, we are all Milspouse photographers, we are also all so much more than that. So we've talked a ton about photography, but I would love to hear about the Randi outside of photography. Tell us a little bit more about like you and your family, what you like to do for fun, those kind of things.
I would say I'm a full-time mom, part-time photographer. I
Okay.
think mostly by choice. My kids are not school-aged yet, so mostly home. It's usually chaos. I have two boys, so my brain is fried by like 10 o'clock in the morning, and so
Yes.
we're always trying to get outside. I love hiking, and like I said, I think I would always do photography, business or no business. We love getting out and hiking and taking pictures like that. Um,
I feel like you probably have a lot of good hiking opportunities where you're currently stationed. Yes?
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and it's very different than the hiking I've done in the past. You're like on these coastal overlooks. I didn't think I was scared of water until we moved here, and I see these
Really?
roaring waves. The beaches are very different. It's not like
Okay.
swimming beaches here. I'm sure there are a few, but yeah, the water here is pretty dangerous. And Monterey's a lot cooler than most people realize. Like, I'm in a sweater today.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never been to Northern California. It is Northern, right? I'm not making that up.
I think it's technically
Central?
central.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, shoot.
we
Okay, well,
we
I've never
are.
been to Central California.
We're about 2 hours south of San Francisco, maybe two and a
Okay,
half hours.
okay.
But the
California's gigantic.
elevation, I think we're a little bit higher elevation wise. I mean, it does not range from like 55 to 75 year round.
Wow. I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds like a dream.
It is pretty great. It's more like Pacific Northwest vibe than I was
Gotcha.
expecting compared to
Gotcha.
like southern sunny California.
Okay.
But it's so
Awesome.
beautiful.
Yeah. Do you guys have any idea yet where you are headed next?
No, I think we
Okay.
might know more this fall of some
Okay.
options. I have no
Okay.
expectations. I'm just,
Along for the ride.
yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love it. Well, the last question I like to ask is if you could be stationed anywhere for 2 years, where would you go and why?
Hmm,
So, could you get a dream assignment this fall? Where would it be?
that's a good question. I don't know, because I always want to be like a little bit closer to home, so that would be a dream. But at the same time, I think it's so unique that we get to see so many places across the country as military
Yeah.
families, and especially if you stay into retirement, it's really not that long. Like we're already hitting, or we,
I mean,
my
you're in
rank.
it too. Yes.
We've he's been in 10 years, and we're already halfway done. So it's like we really have limited opportunity to see more places. All that to say, I think I would love to experience an international at least once, just for the experience. I've heard great things about Germany and Italy because you can just see so much there, and we
Yes.
love traveling and the sightseeing. So that would be
Yes.
great. But I also would not complain about being closer to home because we've been far for the entirety of his career. So.
Sure. I know this is like this weird oddball assignment for us where we're only 3 hours from home. And it was like always
Oh,
this joke of like, they could fly helicopters out of Dayton. We're like, yeah, no, okay. And now like we're
now
here
you're
for a
there.
very short time. But yeah, it
Oh,
is nice to soak that up. But also I feel the same way, like you're saying, like there's no way I would have ever lived in Montana or New Mexico, even DC maybe,
yeah.
if it weren't for the military. We've had some really cool experiences to get to travel, and it's been fun. And kind of like you said, like all of a sudden we blinked and we're 13 years in. It's like, oh my gosh, we're more than halfway. Like just keep plugging along.
Have you had a favorite between those,
Oh, that's hard.
personally or business
Yeah,
wise?
business wise, DC for sure. It
Yeah,
was very permit heavy, like you were saying,
yeah.
but just such epic places to shoot. It's also where I went from part time to full time, and so like business just really blossomed for me there. No pun intended with the cherry blossoms. I just realized as I said that. But yeah, I really loved, and family life was good there too. Lots of cool things to do and see. But I think Montana was the most surprising in terms of how much I loved it. When I found out we were moving there, it was my husband, his commander was playing Guess Your Assignment, and they were giving clues as to where you were going. And the first clue was the state has more cows than people. The second clue was the population density is 6 people per square mile. And we're from Cleveland, which, like, it's not a huge city, but big enough. And I'm like,
You
oh my
figure, yeah.
gosh, where are we going? And we just absolutely loved it. We had a great squadron. I had a great work community. So much, like you're saying, the hiking, the outdoor stuff is so much fun there. So that, and it also was our very first assignment. So like an introduction to the Air Force life. It was really awesome. We loved it.
How were the winters there?
Very unreasonably cold. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So when we were there, I was teaching high school math in like a traditional high school there, and I will never forget, it started snowing the first week of September, and I like marched into my department head room and I was like, what is this? And she's like, oh, Erin, like the first 3 months of winter aren't that bad. It's the next 3 months that really get to you. And
Oh,
I was like, 6 months of winter? Like, no one told me this. And I was also kind of prepared for like all sorts of snow days and things because, coming from the Midwest, when it snowed, school closed. Never once got a snow
no.
day in the 4 years that I was there. Like highways into town were closed, but school was open. So
That's how Alaska was too in
yeah,
regards to the school. I
yeah.
cannot fathom.
It was cold, but the summers were beautiful. And contrary to what most people might think, it gets up into the 80s and 90s in the summer. Like it is still very warm,
Wow.
and just lots of cool places to camp and hike and float the rivers and all the things. It was awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Well, all of a sudden we got on a tangent there about me, but I would love to wrap up with where where people can connect with you. Can you share like website, Instagram, those kind of things so people can reach out if they want to?
My website is randischuette.com. Mostly on Instagram is randy.schuette. I'm on Facebook too, and that's Randi Schuette Photography.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like most people, at least myself, and a few others I've talked to, Facebook is like everything auto posts to there, but I'm mostly just on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So
We need the
awesome.
photo apps.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting. This was wonderful. Like I said, it feels like we've known each other for a while now, so it's nice to actually sit down and chat with you.
Yeah. I'm glad we finally got to talk.
Yes. Well, have a good rest of your day, and thank you again for doing this.
Okay. Thank you, Erin.
Thanks.
Bye.